Gary Kies joining us tonight. Coached over at Waldron for 22 years. He was recently honored by the state of Michigan as a Hall of Fame coach. Just recently coming off a surgery, and we've had to kind of wait for this. Last week I had a ball game with my son and wasn't able to do the show, and Gary kindly rescheduled. Glad to finally do this with you, Gary. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Enjoy doing it.
Now, I guess I didn't realize, because we haven't talked a lot, and we did a little show prep before we came on the air tonight. You're not a former coach, you're a current coach.
Yeah, back at it.
So where are you at right now?
Well, I'm helping out at Hillsdale, enjoying coming out of retirement after 11 years. They needed a substitute to finish out part of a year up there, and so I thought, well, I'll go back and do half a year. And then they extended an invitation for me to come back, and as long as my health allows it, I've had a ball doing it. And,
I'm sure.
And Lem's program is really great. It's
now,
are you guys part of it?
Are you guys running the spread stuff at the middle school level?
Yeah, people come up to us and say, "I can't believe you guys are doing that stuff at 7th grade level." It's tough to teach, and but we just do it all.
I'm going to go out on a limb, and we haven't talked much about this, but I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that you weren't running that at Waldron in the 70s and 80s.
No, we were a bow team. There were a lot of things that could go wrong if you threw the ball. Mm-hmm. No, we were pretty close to the vest. And
pretty much lining up in the eye, or?
Yeah, we ran a lot of eye. Mm-hmm. We ran some pro, but a lot of eye. Even the old power eye was. If we thought we could move the ball on the inside, we loved it.
Gary Kies is a Hall of Famer in the state of Michigan for high school football, recently inducted. We'll talk about that ceremony in a couple of minutes. Waldron High School, back in the day, fierce rivalry with Pittsford, Camden Frontier, all of those old SCAA schools. Before you had, the Climax Scots and the Battle Creek St. Phillips, it was Camden, Litchfield, Waldron, North Adams, Jerome, Pittsford, kind of those original teams. That was an exciting league in those days.
It really was. It was a good league. The schools are much larger than they are now. Most of them, even Waldron, they're just a shadow of what they were then. And we were always the smallest, which made us have to work that much harder, I guess, to compete. But that was our goal every year, was to compete, be competitive, and let that take us where it may.
And you didn't have any trouble doing that. You were the head coach over there for 22 years, and you just said before we went on the air that was a huge part of it. Just the fact that, even if you had a rough year or whatever the case might be, the people at Waldron believed in you enough to ride through that with you. They knew you were building something for the future. Yeah,
no kidding. I feel real blessed to have been trusted that long. Really do. 22 years as their head coach, 4 years working under another coach, but 26 total. Looking back, it's awesome.
Where'd you kind of cut your teeth in the game? Where did you play, and how did you learn the game?
Well, I had some great mentors. I was at Hillsdale College. I didn't play there. I was recruited and never played, but I sat in Muddy's office a lot. Muddy was a mentor to you, whether you were a player or not. Mm-hmm. His door was always open. And, of course, I coached with some people that had an impact on the job we did and how we went about it. But probably he was one of those guys that had an impact on me.
Yeah, and he's a Hall of Famer up at Hillsdale College as well. The great Muddy Waters, obviously the stadium named for him at Hillsdale College, just a legendary character, coached in Michigan State and elsewhere. As far as getting the start at Waldron, how did it come to pass that you ended up at Waldron coaching football?
Well, believe it or not, in those days, teachers and coaches were scarce. Mm-hmm. I mean, they were calling people. I got called and asked if I'd be interested in coming down for an interview. Has that happened lately?
No.
In fact, they hired me over the phone. Mm-hmm. I was doing summer school, and so I went down, signed a contract, and about 2 weeks after that, I started coaching football. And in fact, I told them, I'd like to move on. I had a couple years here. I don't want to pull anybody's leg. I'd really like to coach about 2 years here and move on. And of course, we got things moving, and 26 years later, I was still in the same classroom.
When you look back at your years at Waldron, you know, obviously all of the league championships and all of the rest of it, what do you think, and I don't want you to step on any toes today, and I'm going to put you on the spot here, I'm just warning you ahead of time, what was the best team? What pound for pound, what was the best team you had? And talk a little bit about that group.
Probably the best team, and you know, I've thought about this through the last 6 months or so. Probably the best team didn't win the conference, and that was in '81, long time ago. We had Steve Price, and we had speed everywhere. We were big, and we just won 3 championships in a row. And we ran into John Gabriel's North Adams team that beat us twice that year in the old playoff system. 2 tremendous games, both highly competitive and wonderful games. John still bugs me about the one. He still gives me a hard time about the one where we had a player, well, it was Steve Price, 20 yards from anybody, and the whistle blew. Had an invert whistle and brought the play back, and we lost by a point or 2.
You know, the thing I've always said about John Gabriel is I wish he would get some intensity about him.
Yeah, I know.
He's just a laid-back guy, you know?
You're right.
Get into the game, Coach, for heaven's sakes. Gary Kies with us, and, you know, that's one of the things you mentioned, talking about coaching against John Gabriel and some of the other men you worked against. You know, you're talking about some real rivalries there. People kind of associate the coaches with the teams, and I know you try not to take it personally, but that can be intense sometimes too.
Oh yeah, we were for a long time we were intimidated about North Adams. They were so good through the '70s, and we had a hard time getting over that hump. But when we did, when we finally beat them a time or 2. It was history, but probably our biggest rival was with Pittsford and Bob Clement, and we had some great games with them, and we were always looking for an advantage. We did some real strange things to try to beat them. A couple stories if we have time.
Well, let's hear one of them right now. Go ahead.
We were going up there they were undefeated. We were going up there for a game at their place, and the old coach got the idea that long as it was only 7 miles, we might warm up at home. So we didn't even tell the kids until they came in, and we turned our lights on, went out and warmed up on our field, kept the bus back. We left with about 20 minutes to go. They let us out down on River Street, and we walked up behind their big practice and storage building, and we stood behind there till there was 2.5 minutes to go. They were crazy on that field. There were more. We could peek out and see there were more people looking back to see if the bus had arrived, and they were going nuts. And with about 2.5 minutes to go, we dashed out on the field, and we upset them.
Awesome.
Yeah. The only time I ever remember the bus felt like the bus was on 2 wheels coming up there. I mean, we had not only did it upset them, I think, a little bit, but it really got our kids jacked up to do something innovative, you know, and different. Now I think you have to be on the field.
Yeah, you might get a flag now if you try to do that, but back in those days, it was something you were able to do. Gary Kies is a Hall of Famer, coached for 22 years as the head coach at Waldron, and is now in the Hall of Fame. Working with guys, teenage kids, do you think it's different now than it was when you were coaching in the 70s and 80s?
You know, I heard that when I was a kid. You know, kids don't want to give up their time. They have cars. I can remember that in the 60s. No, I really don't. Short answer, no. There probably are more distractions, but if you run a good program, they'll be there.
Yeah.
I really don't. Kids are kids.
Well, I mean, you've seen it. I mean, Reading gets about 200 kids out every year, and all they do is win. Look what Coach Luma's got going on over at Hudson.
Right.
It can be done. It's a challenge whenever and wherever you want to do it. No cell phones when you were coaching and that kind of stuff, but there were still other distractions. More kids probably had to bale hay for Grandpa or Dad back in those times, and there are always distractions. You found guys that wanted to play.
Yeah, we did, and but winning breeds winning, and it's pretty much that simple. You give them a product, give those kids product, and something to be really proud of. Add some pride and some tradition to your program, and people want to be part of that.
Did you recruit guys to play? I mean, if a kid wasn't sure if he wanted to play or not, or maybe didn't really want to play, would you take that kid aside and sort of try to talk him into it, or did you just coach the guys that showed up?
Oh, no. If we hadn't recruited kids in those days, we would never have had enough players. I mean, we always suffered because we didn't have enough players. Many years we didn't even have a JV team, which was difficult. But, oh, no. I made home visits. You have to, because that kid really wants to be there. But there's just something holding him back. It's hard to say. And, no, I dare say that you can't do that. Even today, I think you need to recruit. You need to go out there and shake hands and pat backs and tell Dad how much the kid needs to be there.
Yep. Gary Kies with us from Waldron High School, now with Hillsdale, helping out with the middle school program. Okay, let's talk about the Hall of Fame. When did you find out about this? How were you notified, and what was your reaction when you found out?
Well, I'm a member, or have been a lifetime member of the Coaches Association. And when I retired, we filled out an application, and that was ancient history, it seemed like. Added the statistics, and after a few years, we thought, well, it's probably not going to happen, and I'd just about forgotten about it. Shortly after Christmas this year, I got a call, and I thought, well, this really can't be real. This is one of my friends putting me on. Teachers are great put-ons. And I have a couple friends that I thought it could be them. But the more I talked, the more I knew that this man knew more about me than even my friends. And I was ecstatic. I'll tell you, it was a thrill.
For sure.
The whole event was a thrill. It was done so first class. Bo Schembeckler was involved in it in the beginning. They talked about a Hall of Fame, and they asked Bo if he'd help. He said certainly he'd help if they did it first class. And that's the way it's been done ever since.
And you mentioned that this year Brady Hoke, the new head coach at the University of Michigan, was there, and you even had something special you showed me a couple of minutes ago. Yeah,
Brady sent me a note after the banquet, handwritten message, note congratulating me again, and how he enjoyed being there with us. He's a very unassuming man. He seems to, I talked to him before the program a little bit, and he said, "You going to tell us all about you, Coach?" And he said, "No, tonight's about you guys." He said, "I'm just starting. You're the people who we're here to honor." And I thought, wow, he's a humble man. We just hope he can bring back the glory.
Well, I think Michigan fans feel like he is. When you hear him talk and you shut your eyes, he kind of sounds like Bo a little bit. And the world has changed a little bit in college football with the crazy schemes and the spread stuff. But a lot of the things you've talked about are the same. You got to get guys on the ground. You got to finish blocks. You got to finish runs and all the rest of it. And that's football. And I think that's what Brady Hoke may bring, hopefully, is just the emphasis on the fundamentals and the basics. And I know whatever level you're coaching at, that's incredibly important. Talk a little bit about the ceremony. Who inducted you, and how did that all go down?
Well, there was a master ceremony who introduced us all. Of course, there were 13 others, 14 of us all together, and we were asked to after they gave a little biography, we were asked to make a few comments, 3 or 4 minutes, and that was easily done. And that was about it. There were 530 people there in the banquet room, so everybody was a bit nervous. 530 former coaches, families, friends, players, wives. And I was lucky. I had my parents there, my grandkids there. I feel so blessed have my family there, a few former players, and Coach Lem from Hillsdale was there.
I've had a chance to get to know Coach Lemmer a little bit, and what he's doing at Hillsdale is so exciting. The brand of football they play is so much fun, and he's just a high character guy.
Yes.
And a real integrity guy, and looking forward to Hornet football coming up in the fall. You look back at all of it, all the sacrifices, the time over the summer that you have to give, the time working on film, and I bet film studies changed a little bit since you did it. I mean, you didn't have VHS probably at that time. How did you do the film work back in the 70s and 80s?
Yeah, we started with 8mm film, and we had to take it the night of the game to a delivery spot or to a pickup spot, and then it was delivered on Sunday back from, I think, Battle Creek, and we got to sit down with it, of course, and study it. We had pretty good equipment in those days. Yeah, in the 80s we went to tape, and that seemed like a big jump.
Yeah, I'm told now you have to have it on. You got to upload it to the computer with the DVD and the digital and all this stuff, and it's just continuing to change. One day we were getting ready to play Waterford Our Lady of the Lakes, and they showed up with a charter bus, and then they had another big truck behind it pulling this wagon or this trailer, and out of this trailer they set up a huge tripod that went in the end zone. It was probably 15, 20 feet high, and it had a camera at the top of it, and they had an operator with a remote pad on the sidelines who could operate that camera from the background, the back of the end zone. And the reason I bring this up, and I want to get your thoughts about it, is just the mental side of the game. We felt that the bus and the trailer and the camera and all this stuff kind of intimidated some of our players before the game had even started, before the first play had even started. And as a coach, I don't have the kind of background that you do, but boy, oh boy, that mental edge that you have to have going into a game is so important, isn't it?
Oh yeah, and I have to admit that we've been on both sides of that coin. It's easy to get caught up in what the other team is doing. It really is, but it's your job to see that doesn't happen, and it can be done. You just have to concentrate on what you do and try to make sure the kids aren't looking at the other end of the field too much.
Yeah. I want to get you guys out of here, but I wanted to ask you kind of about the current state of the high school game. In our league, we're seeing a lot of those teams that I mentioned a few minutes ago moving to 8-man football.
Yeah.
Litchfield was the one that really surprised us. They've had a competitive team. It's been tough, but their team is fairly competitive for the amount of kids that they've had, and they've decided to go to 8-man. Burr Oak and Teconcha have gone to 8-man. And, the teams like us down at Camden Frontier and Waldron, we're sitting here now kind of on the edge of the universe. There are no more smaller schools than us anymore. And, the question is 8-man really the way to go, or do you try to fight through at the 11-man game? This is all new to me. Now, I don't know what you know about the 8-man game, but obviously you've heard about it. And what do you think about that movement?
Well, I think if you're going to continue to have a program, you have to make some sacrifices, and I guess I'm not a great fan of it, but what choice do these schools have?
Right.
I just don't. They haven't supported a JV team. They're not. They haven't been very competitive in the league. I don't know. I really don't know. It's a tough question, Andy. You'd love to see them all be able to continue, but the state is there are a whole lot of schools in the state now that are going to go to 8-man.
I guess if the choice is you can't have any kind of football at all or 8-man, if that really is the choice, I guess 8-man might be a good alternative. Having never seen it before, I don't even know how you line up. I would need to know a lot more about it, but
right.
It's a relevant issue now for our area especially, and maybe some of the areas up in the Upper Peninsula.
Well, there are a lot of schools out west that are playing 8-man and 9-man.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of schools out there in Wyoming and South Dakota and Montana, they play 8-man, have an 8-man championship, and it's probably as many schools playing 8 and 9-man football as 11.
Gary Kies is in the Hall of Fame for the state of Michigan. He gave 22 years as the head coach at Waldron, 26 overall at Waldron. Now he's helping out with the middle school at Hillsdale. He has touched, dare I say, hundreds, if not over 1,000 young men over that time. And that really ultimately, Coach, finally is what this business is all about. You try to win every game you play, and you try to do it in a way that is going to help develop young men.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That, I think we all probably entered the profession with a little ego. We played football. We loved it. We wanted to continue to be involved, and that was our way. We saw an opportunity to stay in the game. But as time goes on, it becomes more than that. It's not about us. It's about the relationships you develop, the players, the friends, and that's what it's all about. And I'm proud to have so many friends from around the county and the area, and I even made friends with a few referees.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before. That's pretty amazing. I literally could talk to you for the next 15 hours. I'm just fascinated by your career and what you've accomplished, and I think all of us young coaches aspire to get to where you are, which is having done all of that at a small school and done it the right way. For these little towns, Friday night's pretty special. And when you can put a team on the field like you did for 22 years, it's an honor to be able to do that, and you did it so well.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Congratulations.
You're welcome. Thank you.